You are standing in a Seattle parking lot on a Tuesday morning in March 2024. A single crow lies dead on the asphalt, wings folded, feathers matted. Within 4 minutes, 12 crows arrive from the surrounding blocks. Within 8 minutes, the number has climbed to 47. By minute 15, crows are perched on every nearby wire, roof edge, and lamppost. The sound is deafening. A cascade of harsh, overlapping calls you can hear from 2 blocks away. This is not scavenging. This is not curiosity. Something else is happening here. Now, I want you to sit with this moment, because what you are witnessing has shifted. For decades, we documented crow gatherings around dead members as information-sharing events, crows learning about threats. But since 2024, the scale, the timing, and the apparent intentionality have changed in ways that demand explanation. I am Dr. Hendrik Bale, and I have spent 28 years studying Corvus brachyrhynchos, the American crow. My work began where most corvid research does, Seattle, in the laboratories and urban sites where Kaylee Swift first mapped their response to death. What I have observed in the last 2 years has made me reconsider everything I thought I knew. By the end of this chapter, you will understand how crows detect a death within minutes. You will see why young birds are positioned at the edge of these gatherings to witness them. You will know the difference between the old behavior and what is emerging now. But stay with me, because the real question surfaces in the next chapter. How do crows broadcast that death across an entire city so fast? That answer will change how you listen to the sounds above your street. So within seconds of that first Seattle crow's call, you have to understand what is already in motion. The bird that spotted the body, let's call her the sentinel. She is perched higher than the rest. From that height, her call travels farther than it would from the ground. Her neighbors hear it. They hear the specific cadence, the harsh repetition, the pitch. This is not a territorial call. This is not a contact call between friends. I have listened to these recordings for 28 years, and I hear the difference immediately. A mobbing call carries between 70 and 80 decibels, loud enough to cut through traffic noise in a dense neighborhood. Within 15 seconds, the crows within earshot begin to vocalize in return. Now, the acoustic wave expands outward in a relay, like tapping down a line of dominoes. Each crow that joins amplifies the signal and broadcasts it further into adjacent territories. An individual call can carry 3, sometimes 400 meters through an urban canyon. In a compressed city territory, and Seattle's crow neighborhoods are dense, very dense, you have hundreds of birds within acoustic range of a single point. The first wave arrives in 90 seconds, sometimes less. 50, 60, 70 crows converging from different roosts, different blocks, all triggered by a signal they learned as juveniles. And here is where it gets interesting. The crows already airborne, already perched at height, they broadcast the loudest. They serve as secondary amplifiers, which means the network itself has a structure, a hierarchy of signal strength. The cascade accelerates because the most distant birds hear the loudest voices first. Within minutes, the acoustic event has propagated across an entire city district. Birds arriving at the site see something their eyes and their learned memory recognize: a body in the position of death. Horizontal, limp, unresponsive. That confirmation, sight plus sound, locks the gathering in place. And now, if you step back from the commotion and count the birds, you notice something the first chapter did not prepare you for. The young ones are not at the center of the noise. They are positioned at the edges, watching, listening, silent. You are watching now as the younger crows arrive, and here is where it gets interesting. They land at the perimeter, silent, watching the vocalizing mass in the center. The adults are screaming. The young ones are still, their plumage still brownish, their eyes still that blue-gray. I have watched this positioning happen over and over, and most people miss why it matters. These are not random birds. Many are from neighboring territories, drawn by the alarm cascade. But the ones that linger at the edge, the helpers, the year-old birds still with their families, they are learning. Here is what they are learning. This is where danger lives. This body, this location, this moment. I do not use the word teaching loosely. What I mean is observational learning, social learning. The young crow's brain, its pallium, the part that handles memory and judgment, is recording this gathering. In 6 months, if that same location smells of death, that bird will know what it means. In a year, if a predator appears in that spot, that bird will remember this assembly and mob it. Kaylee Swift's experiments showed me this directly. Crows that watched a dead crow paired with a masked human figure, they remembered that mask for months. They taught their own young to mob that mask. Information passed down without any vocal lesson. The juveniles are also learning solidarity, group identity, what it means to be crow. This is not instinct alone. This is culture. This is what happens when a bird lives 7 years, 8 years, and must navigate a complex urban world. The assembly lasts maybe 20 minutes. Then it fractures. The adults disperse. The young ones leave last, their memories now stained with this gathering. But here is what matters next. What has compressed this behavior, made it more frequent, more intense? The answer is not what you think it is, and it begins with the ground beneath their feet. With the young birds encoded and the gathering dissolved, I need to show you what has actually shifted since 2024. It is not the funeral itself that changed. The funeral has always happened. What changed is the frequency, the intensity, the sheer number of crows compressed into one place at one time. Here is why, and I have spent 3 years now mapping this pattern across Seattle, Portland, and inland valleys. Crows live 7 to 8 years on average. Some live 15, even 20 years in the wild. That means a 20-year-old crow, alive today, shares territory with her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. 3, sometimes 4 generations in one social unit. In 2015, when I started this work, that overlap was rare. A territory held maybe 2 generations, sometimes 1. Now, drought has shrunk the rural habitat so severely that family groups are packed tighter than they were a decade ago. Climate pressure is real. I measure it. The mountain crow populations are contracting into the valleys. Those displaced birds collide with urban flocks already densified by the food we leave behind, the garbage, the gardens, the grain storage. And here is where it gets interesting. A young crow now watches her grandmother die, then her older sister, then an aunt. She is not learning this once. She is learning it repeatedly, intensely, across her critical developmental years. My colleague at the University of Washington, Kaylee Swift, proved that corvids encode threat through observation. They remember, they teach, they pass it on. But what happens when the lesson repeats every month instead of every 3 years? The behavior intensifies. The vocalization becomes louder. The gathering becomes larger. This is not new instinct. This is accelerated cultural learning under pressure. I have watched a juvenile crow, flanked by 3 older birds, vocalize for 18 straight minutes over a dead male. 18 minutes. That is not alarm. That is something else. Now, I have to be honest with you about what that something else is. I cannot tell you it is grief. The science cannot tell you that yet. But I can tell you it is novel, it is transmitted, and it is spreading. A behavior that was rare in 2020 is now routine in every major city where crows live densely. Look at what we have walked through. A signal spreads in seconds. A teaching happens at the perimeter. Young birds learn and carry that learning into roosts of thousands. That is a network. That is cultural change happening in real time, across a species, across a continent. The next time you hear crows mobbing in your neighborhood, step outside and look. Count how many arrive. Watch where the young ones stand. Listen to the pitch of the calls. You are watching a species adapt to loss faster than we have documented before. I read every comment you leave, and I want to know, have you seen this in your own city? What did it sound like to you? Tell me.